Alright, welcome back everyone. My name is Tiffany, I'm the Tipsy Artist. We are going live to do a painting class called Bam Batman. Alright, so this is what it looks like. And you can definitely be creative with the color choices. And I've got a color list with all the directions on how to mix every color on my website. I'll leave that in the comments. But I also have the painting kit for this too. So it has everything that you need at tipsyartist.com. But this is the traceable. And so let's talk about first how to apply this to the canvas. So I have an 8x10 canvas panel, which is, I'm really beginning to love those because they frame so easily and look awesome. Alright, so it comes to you as the traceable, but I do have, I want to point this out, I have just a slight overlap, it's just that much over the back, and that will have it in just the right position to where you do get the full design, and then this will basically just end right at the end here on the base of the canvas. But you do want to make sure that you don't cut off the ears in this top part of the design. So make sure that that's in your frame area and showing up. But the very first thing that I do is we have this transfer paper. So I start by just going ahead and taping that down. And it's very simple. I just tape up here at the top, here, and here. And then I always leave the bottom untaped and the sides, so that I can constantly lift up and check my work as I do it. And then I go ahead and just place this on top, and then I tape here and here to secure that. And it secures very easily with just Scotch tape too. We do have some tape in the kit, but Scotch tape is a little bit more sturdy and it'll help it secure really well. So again, just here and here, always leave those sides and bottom open. And then you just take a pencil and, let's see if that one, ta-da. So this does come with a kit too, but basically every single place that you see a line, you'll go ahead and just do line work right over the top. And then that's really cool because it will actually transfer this entire design to your canvas. So, but again, that's why I always leave it open so that I can check all my work. There's a lot of detail in here, so you do want to make sure you get every line done before you remove this part and start to do your painting. Alright, the other thing, and I worked ahead a little bit as you can see, the other thing that I have with the kit is also a permanent marker. And alright, so we all know what that looks like, just a permanent marker there. I did, because this is more of a pop art with some harder black lines, I did go ahead and go over all the design with this. So without this, the design basically looks like pencil lines on your canvas. And I think it makes it much easier for beginners to go ahead and use the permanent marker to go ahead and do a hard line around all of that. And it makes it really pop. Also, it makes the painting process much easier because then we can be a little bit more loose and free with our painting. And we know that all of this permanent marker will actually bleed through the paint, so you will not lose your trace. So it makes it really nice and easy. Alright, so we're all ready to go. Now what I'm going to do now, I'm going to do a little bit of a shift here with my camera. And we're going to take this camera that's on me now, I'm going to turn it down to a different position. And then come in basically just right over the top. That way you can see what I'm doing a lot more easily. Okay. I'm moving I've got some stuff on my desktop. I'm going to move this stuff out of the way so I can see a little bit better. And then I'll move this keyboard out of the way. Give me more room here. Let's see how much, I'm going to look at this space here and see. Alright. So I'm going to go ahead and bring my paints into the scene. Get set up here a little bit. And I'm going to have a little sit down with y'all. Let's sit and paint first. Let me roll up here. Okay. I'm still here. Just getting situated. Alrighty. I'm actually going to remove this. I'm taking away that transfer paper, basically. Alright, so that'll be a lot easier to work with. Awesome. Okay. Alright, so with our painting kit, we do have some beautiful, very high quality, so it's going in the right direction. These are some very heavy bodied, really good quality acrylic paints that come with your kit. And then we also have some really great brushes that come with your kit here. I have a big bucket nearby, so I'm going to look and make sure. Okay, which ones actually came with your kit? So we do have a little bit that comes with your kit. And then we have a little buddy. And then we have a mama brush. Alright, so that's what comes with the kit. Alright, we have those. And then I always make sure that I've got some paper towels nearby before we get started. And then a bucket of water. And of course a little rag is always kind of nice sometimes too. Alright, and then we are going to get going. Now on the paint, of course yours will be brand new. I'm going to be trying to use up other colors here that have already been opened, so because I'm trying to use up everything that I have. Alright, so here we go. So to get started, I'm going to go ahead and get started with all my background. I always work lightest to darkest in the colors. That way I can have a lot more flexibility and freedom with it as I go. And you don't want to put in too much dark at the very beginning because then that can actually muddy up a lot of your light colors. And also what I'm loving about the light colors is that they're actually going to be really easy to work with on this design because all of this will bleed through, so our trace will definitely stay perfectly intact. Alright, and I am going on a Zoom on live Facebook, so I want to thank everybody for being here, and hello to everybody. And if you have any fun comments or questions, please leave those in the comments and I'll get back with you. I do have a hard time seeing that with the Zoom during the process, but I always come back right after the class and I always answer any questions and say hello to everybody. Alright, to get started with here, we're going to be using some Cadmium Yellow. So here we go, Cadmium Yellow. And I'm going to go ahead and just place, this is already dry over here, so I've got a lot of dry paint, but I'm going to do a nice heaping nickel-sized dollop of that Cadmium Yellow. And then you want to use, in your kit, you will find that you have some titanium white. Now I already have a little bit of that off to the side, but that's just white paint. So I'm going to do a little bit of that over here. And then let's also get, let's go ahead and get a little bit of this primary yellow. We'll do a little pop of that over here too, just in case. I'm going to have a little mix of that. So a little dime size amount. I'm going to low on that too. Pretty large area. I'm actually going to come and do one more nickel sized dollop of my cadmium yellow. We want to make sure we have plenty of that to work with. Alright, I'm putting my hair back for a second. Pardon me. Alright, there we go. I know y'all can't see that, but that's what I was doing. Okay, let's see here. I've got my mama brush to start with, and you can add just a tiny little touch of water. I've got mine pushed into the white, which is fine, a little bit of that white paint, and then mostly all of this cadmium yellow. Tiny little touch of that white, but mostly cadmium yellow. And I'm going to do a little tiny touch of that primary yellow to help kind of brighten it up a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and start to push this into the background. And you can see how it is beautifully coming through our design. We didn't lose a thing there, so that's awesome. And that's going to really help you with this process. And then as I get close to this edge, this is a dark gray. I could theoretically just be a little bit sloppy and kind of overpaint on this, but I am going to try to care a little bit. Be careful, just so you see that I'm actually not painting in this particular color into that design. But if you do have a little bit of overpaint at home, don't worry about it, because again, we'll be coming in with gray here and it will easily cover over this yellow, very easily. But on this, I definitely want all this yellow in the background, so I'm going to go ahead and be very carefree with it and just work this all into the background. So I want to have nice coverage here, and so as I apply the paint, I'm going to turn my brush handle over to the side. And that'll help feather out those brush strokes. Gives you a light, gentle hand. Helps that paint stay on the canvas. As you turn the handle more like this, it has a tendency to push into the paint more, and sometimes it'll push it off the canvas. So you do want to be careful about that. And a nice layer of paint to actually stay on the canvas. Looks like I need even more paint here, so I'm going to come back in with more cadmium yellow. Nice big heaping dollop of that. Take it all the way off to the side. It's really pretty, very bright. Alright, now we need to do a little bit of cut-in work again, so I'm going to take my brush and hold it more like a pencil. That'll give me a thin line edge to do the cut-in work. You can turn the canvas a little bit too. Sometimes it's easier to get to a position by turning it. And it most definitely is in this case. I can get a little bit closer to where I need to be and have more precision as I do this cut-in work. And let's feather out those brush strokes a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and turn it upside down for just a moment. Let's go ahead and get our cut-in work here done. Pull that back in from that outer edge. And now feather it out again. Nice consistent layer of paint. And then I'm feathering this out again in that horizontal position so that all the brush strokes are drying in that same position. Now I'm going to turn this back over. Alright, there we go. So we have beautiful color in the top section of this. I'm going to go ahead and take my mama brush and rinse out a little bit. So I've got my bucket of water here. Firm pressure, spin it round and round and round. That helps release the paint. It's really important to always rinse your brushes out, or at least let them sit in the bucket of water before you have a chance to attend to them. Don't ever just leave them out with paint on the side. because acrylic paint can set up and dry very quickly, sometimes 5-10 minutes at the most, and then you'll end up having sticks instead of brushes. So very important to go ahead and rinse that out. Here it is, all clean, good deal. Alright, so this bottom section here is going to be bigger pop of orange over the top. So we have some cadmium orange. So I'm going to do a nice big dollop of that. Probably, based on what we used up here at the top, I'll probably even need maybe a bit more than that, but we'll see. Put a little bit more nearby, just in case. Again, cadmium orange. And then we'll come back in with our clean mama brush. I'm going to work into this beautiful, vibrant orange color. And we're going to place this into the bottom section. So again, we have our cut-in work that we need to do. And hello again to everybody out there joining me today. I hope y'all are having a beautiful day. Hope you feel like a superhero. I'm going to cut in right next to this edge. And then I'll come and cut right in next to this edge as well. I'm going to get as close to the top of that black line as I can. There we go. I want to make sure I get a nice overpaint and make sure and get those edges. You don't want to have any residual white left over or peeking through outside of that frame area. We will put a frame over this whenever we're done. So make sure that paint just wraps around the edge nicely. Get good coverage there. And then in order to get really good coverage on my orange, I'm just making sure that I turn my handle over to the side to where the flat side of the brush faces the canvas. That will give you a gentle hand. And again, really allows for a lot of that paint to just rest right on the surface area there. Alright, I'm going to do that little turn again to where I can actually reach this other side. It's easier to get to it on this side here. So again, a little cut in. Let's get some of that. I don't know if anybody else is having gnat problems. I thought we had some fresh flowers in the house, and I thought it was because of that. And then, not fast enough. But I took the fresh flowers outside, and we still have the gnats, so I'm a little bewildered as to what's going on. Alright, let's make sure we get a nice wrap around the edge here. And then let's feather this out again. Hello, honey bear. My honey bear's back. He's doing a vintage camper restoration for a dear friend here in Guthrie, Oklahoma. So they've been kind of in and out dealing with that. It's been a very, very fun project. All right, let's go ahead and turn this back around. Love it. Okay, so we have a little bit more to do with our orange here too. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rinse out, because I actually want to do a little bit more of an overpaint in the center. This is on the face area. Alright, I want to make this kind of a peachy color, so I'm going to come in with a touch of white and that orange. So I'm making like a peach color. Do you see that over there to the side? And let's add a little touch of that primary yellow and warm it up a little bit. So you see that's making this like flesh tone color. So I'm actually going to paint this into this section here. Very peachy. If you want something that has a darker tone to it, with some brown, the color mix on that goes the other direction. Basically, you do a mix of black and orange. And that makes brown. Sorry, I did not finish my sentence. Started concentrating. Alright, so again, really fun peachy color here. There's a little bit of an overpaint on that line. I will tighten that up later when we come in with the gray. But making sure we get into this full area here. And it's okay if it's a little bit sloppy. Again, we'll correct that with the darker gray color later. But I'm going to go ahead and feather out the brush strokes in a nice horizontal pattern. We're good there. I'm going to go ahead and rinse out again. Now I need a smaller brush. Let's go use Little Buddy, and we're going to go back to the Cadmium Orange. And we're going to put this in this little section in here. And let's try to feather this out as much as possible. Alright. Awesome. Okay, we're going to let that set up a little bit. Rinse out, clean off our little buddy brush. Now we'll be going into the lettering here for the band part. And so I need to start to work with some red. Alright, so we have a Cadmium Red. I'm going to do a nice big dollop of that over there, about a nickel size dollop. There it is. I always like to cool it off a bit though, so I add a touch of primary magenta. Beautiful. Now we will come in with our little bit brush and we'll work both of those together. So an equal mix of primary magenta and cadmium red, it brings us a cooler red basically. Very pretty. So I'm going to do a little twist into the paint, which brings me back a nice fine point. And then I will start to paint this into the letters here. So in this word band here, just take some patience. And you definitely want to just hold the brush like a pencil. And if you see a little bit of transparency, then you can make sure that this brush has a lot of paint on it. Hold that brush just a little bit out to the side, do a light drag right over the top. And then we'll I'll continue on, just filling in the rest of the letters here. Again, just light drag, turning that brush over to the side to help fill in. Looking good. Beautiful, beautiful. A beautiful bam. We have a little circle here. Kind of spin it in a little circle. Help fill that in. Alright. Lovely. Let's do another rinse out. Didn't quite get all the paint out there. And again. Alright, we need to find some more primary yellow. So here we go. I'm kind of running low on a lot of these. Alright, so we've got a nice big, let's give you a visual here. Right there, about that size dollop, dime size. Let's go ahead and go back to our clean little bit brush and just bright primary yellow. You can even add a little bit of white to this to really make it very bright and light. So adding in a little bit of white here, let's give a visual on that. So I've been dipping into this white and adding that to that primary yellow. So it makes it a few shades lighter. And then this first little starburst that comes out, I want this to be a pop of that brighter yellow. So it's subtle, but very effective. Move this over here to the side a little bit. You can definitely see there's a little bit of a contrast. And just holding this little bit brush just like you would hold a pencil, very natural, easy hold. And again, I recommend kind of turning it a little bit as you work, just for, you know, having better range. Don't forget these little peekaboo areas here. Peekaboo there, peekaboo here. Little tiny little areas. And let's keep giving it a little bit of a spin so it's easier to reach. That way you're not awkwardly trying to hold your hand over the rest of the painting, possibly disrupting it. Anytime you can turn the canvas and paint into a section without your arms resting over the top, it's going to definitely serve you well. Little peekaboo triangular shape popping out there. And if your brush gets a little too full of paint, remember you can always do that little spin. Still loads it up, but then it pulls it right back to a nice thin point. And so we're just painting into these little points here. Basically look like little tiny triangles. And then we also want to make sure and get in the lightest, brightest shade of yellow into these little areas here too. Alright, good work. So we've got that starburst in. I'm going to go ahead and rinse out here. Let's turn it back the other direction. And do a quick little wipe here on the edge. Okay. Alright, so let's finish cleaning off our little bit brush here. Round one around in the water. Runs clear, and I'm going to go ahead and dry it off. Alright, so now we have some different shades of gray that we need to start working on. Now, in your paint kit, you will find that we have some Mars Black, and we also have some Titanium White. Alright, there's our Titanium White. So basically it's just a mix of these two for the grays. We're just going to have to do different levels of that in terms of the mix to get it darker and then a lighter. Alright, so I'm going to use our bomber brush again, and we're going to go ahead, we're going to mix up the lighter shade of gray now. So there's 3 shades of gray here. So I've got, let's do this white, and then just a barely touch into the black, very tiny amount of black. Let's push that in and do a really light shade of gray here. One more little touch. Alright, so that is good. That's about where I want it. And then we're going to go ahead and place that into this section right in here. And Little Buddy is also an option here too if you're a little bit more comfortable with this smaller brush in this section. It does fit nicely in this little area. So you can hold it like a pencil and get that thin line edge. Alright, beautiful. And I want to maintain the consistency. So as I'm looking at the model here, let's go ahead and work in this next shade of gray here into this little section here, because it's going to go right in here. And this is my little buddy brush. Alright, so that is the next shade there. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and put Little Buddy into the water. Just a moment. Now I'm going to go a little bit darker here. Next shade. So I've got a little bit more black that I'll start adding in here. I'm going to do a bigger, we have a larger area to cover, so I'm going to add a bigger dollop of white and then like a pea size amount of that black. And let's push that in. But I definitely want this to have some contrast and be quite a bit darker than what we just did. And then I'm also going to add just a touch of some let's see, this is a primary cyan blue. I just want a little hint of slate happening in here. So let's do a little touch of that as well. That's going to be nice. Kind of that steel color. Do a little bit more black. A bit more blue. I think that's lovely. So let's go ahead and first of all, we want to make sure it's very contrasting. And it is. We definitely see a difference. We definitely want that. We've got it. So we'll hold that brush more over to the side. Need a thin line again, so I'm going to do a firm press. Just check my edge, make sure it's a little bit more thin. It's a little bit bulky with paint filling the brushes, so sometimes you have to just rinse out or do a really hard press on the edge to get back to that really thin layer. Okay, see how it's a lot thinner now? Got it. That's going to be easier to control. So I'm going to go ahead and pull down on this section. This is set up and dry pretty well, so I can steady the weight of my hand on my pinky. That'll help stabilize my hand here. Same here. Let's get a nice tight point up there. Pull this down. And this will go right to the top of the eyes. And then we'll fill that in completely with that same color. Hold this steady. Again, hold it a little bit more like a pencil for that line edge. And then I'm going to do a nice tight line just right across the top here. And then again here. And then just kind of feather out any of those brush strokes with another solid, consistent horizontal line across the top. Alright, so we're looking good now. I've got a little bit of a disconnect here. I need to make sure this line just goes all the way down. There. And now let's feather this out. Perfect. Alright, that's looking better. Okay. And then I've got this section right in through here I still need to do with this shade of gray. So we're going to go ahead and work this into this section here. This is getting to be a little bit small again, so I'm going to switch back over to our little buddy. Let little buddy do the work in this little area. So you can hold it like a pencil, do that firm line there, and then just finish filling that in, and then let's feather out and help softly blend. Alright, so lots of progress. Now we need to go a shade darker again. So let's do another mix here of some white and some black. And some cobalt. Or actually that's my primary cyan blue. Forgive me. Primary cyan blue. Okay. Now, a little bit more black. Again, more black. We definitely want some contrast, and we want it to be quite a bit darker. Let's see if we are there yet. We need contrast. Let's put it next to it and see if we're darker. One more shade of black in there, a little bit more blue. This is my little buddy brush. We're going to get right next to that edge. Definitely looks a lot darker, for sure. That's what we needed. We needed that contrast. Follow this all the way down. Let the lines of the brushes on the edges just kind of do the work for you and just kind of press down. And we're just going to continue to fill in this space. So one other thing too is I actually just let the white of my canvas be my white for the eyes. Much easier. You don't have to worry about any sloppy, muddy little accidents happening by trying to push in that white. That just makes it really tight and clean there. And the canvas is painted in primed white, so it definitely works for you. I'm going to come over the top of that orange that's coming over the top of the black and tighten that up. A little water break. All right, and continuing on. And just kind of crisscross the pattern of the paint here to get nice, good coverage. Make sure it wraps along the edge so that you don't have any peekaboo of that white showing through. And then I'm going to firm up this line right in through here. And let me drag there. Tighten up any areas where there's been a little bit of that overpaint of the lighter shades coming in over the top. I want to make sure that we can come back in and kind of clean up a little bit with that darker shade. Alright, so we are looking good there. So that looks beautiful. Let's go ahead and rinse out now. Alright, so ideally what I would really like to see happen at this point is for this to all be completely dry, to where what I would actually recommend, highly recommend, is just using the permanent marker that comes with your kit and just doing a hard line edge around those letters. That's what I would recommend. So it comes with this, and then you could literally just take this and do that all the way around and just make all that really pop. Now you can't use this though until the paint is actually completely dry, and I am doing a live and I don't have the luxury of sitting here, and I guess we could just sit and hang out for a while, but probably not. That doesn't normally work. So I'm going to go ahead and do just a painted version of this over the top. But again, for beginners, highly recommend the ease of just using the permanent marker to go ahead and go over all of this. It works like a dream. It looks beautiful, very easy to control. Again, highly recommend this, but you can't do it until this is absolutely 100% dry. So we're not there yet, so I'm going to have to go ahead and continue on with paint. So I'm going to use my little bit brush and my black, Mars Black. And you can add a little bit of water to the black too, to kind of thin it out just a little bit to make the paint easier to control. So I'm also going to do a nice tight little, circular spin in there. So nice thin point. And then I'll go ahead and come around the edges here. So it's going to make these letters really pop nicely. So it's still very effective and not, too terribly challenging. You do have to have more of a steady hand though to do this with a little bit brush. And just follow what's there for you. Just trust in that process, and it's really nice how it all works. It's really coming along. So just a nice, beautiful black outline. Definitely just want to hold that brush just like you would hold a pencil. Just be very patient with the process. And hello to everybody out there with me. Thank you so much for joining me today. We'll keep this video up forever so that you can always do it whenever it is convenient for you. And the whole painting kit that goes with this is on our website, tipsyartist.com. Coming along nicely. Again, just continue to hold the brush just like a pencil. It's looking good. Alright, now I'm going to show you a fun little technique using the end of the brush handle. Let's rinse out a little bit. Now we use the wooden handle, and I'm going to dip into the black paint and see how it's right there on the bottom, and then we can touch down right over the dots. And we're going to make that beautiful technique of the pop art show again right on top. So it's really fun. And you can repress again if you don't quite get it the first time. Sometimes the little circles end up being a little bit smaller. You don't get a good load on it the first time. Again, you can also do this with your permanent marker. Definitely have it be a bit more precise. And then we'll spin this a little bit because we'll work into all those sides. It's a little bit easier to get into those areas when they're a little bit closer to us. And there's my sweet puppy dog, Miss Irish. She just came in. And let's keep turning this just a little bit to have better positioning all the way around. Again, just using the handle of the brush, pushing right into the black paint, and when you press down, it just makes a nice little circle. Alright, so we've got a really good foundation there. Go ahead and wipe off the handle here. Now we're going to switch back to the brush side and just very lightly, I'm going to make sure I have a very delicate amount of black. So I'm going to add a little bit of water here to my black. A nice tight spin here on the end of the brush, make it very thin. And then with a really light hand, then I will go ahead and go around the outer edges of this. So that'll make those really pop out. And you can see here too that I am using I rest the weight of my hand on my pinky so that it'll stabilize my hand while I do this more delicate move here. And a little bit of water with the black so that it does stay nice and thin, easier to control. Take it all the way out to a point. And be really gentle when you lift off. Sorry about that, I hit the little camera there. Alright, and just keep doing this all the way around. It's a really fun pop art Batman. Really cute for the superhero in your life or a child's room. Kind of just depends. Get a little bit more water. spin into the paint there. Keep taking this star pattern all the way out. Add a little bit more water. It's starting to a little bit of that peekaboo dry brush. I want it to fill into the porous amounts of the canvas, so I add a little bit more water. That helps it flow into those areas. Now let's keep spinning this around so that I have an easier positioning here. Then any place there's still a little bit of residual shadow, I'm going to go ahead and fill in with that black. And then it looks like we are done. Yeah. Alright. So there we go. There is our pop art Bam Batman. And as it dries, you can always come back in and redefine lines with your permanent marker and a ruler. That's something else that you can do. You can actually do an outline around the entire thing. Ours is still setting up and drying, so I'm going to give it some breathe time on that, but it does look really great just the way it is there. It looks awesome. Okay. Alright, so it has been a pleasure doing this wonderful little pop art Bam Batman project with you. It's very simple and easy to do. We do have the traceable with this, so again that makes it very easy for you, and the painting kit. So that's all in the description below if you want to check that out on our website at tipsyartist.com. But y'all have a super day and be your own superhero today. Help yourself, help others, and have a beautiful day, and we will see y'all tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm coming back and doing a really cool abstract painting process with palette knives, so that should be a lot of fun, something pretty different for us. So I'm looking forward to that. But y'all have a beautiful rest of the day. Love y'all. See you soon. Toodles.